Black world, know this. Bullshit never upsets people. Truth does. Truth does. Truth does. Truth.
That's why many black people haven't did any change. Because we sitting around, we think some kind of really deep idea going to come up from outer space or some grand leader going to show up. All the information has already been given.
This is X from the Prophet of Thought series. You know the front stereo. Yeah, doing the reverse first. That's kind of what we do in the black world. And I'm going to start right off with a case in point. Now, normally, in most normal functional situations, how does a person proceed with starting off with their life? They go to school, they graduate school, they go to college. When they get out of college, they get themselves a decent job or a decent career. They meet someone or they've met someone in college. They get married. Once they get married, they buy themselves a home and they fill that home up with children. And we know 7, 8 out of 10 times those children are just better off. Okay? That's usually in something that's more functional. But see, we as black people, we have a tendency to do all that in reverse. See, we start having babies, a lot of us, when we 16, 17, education becomes, an afterthought that goes in the wind. All right. And what do we do after we start having that first couple of babies when we're 17 and 18? We do something even more ridiculous and start having more babies. For what? Okay. Now, once we find ourselves living in the lap of poverty and disparity, now we wanna make the come up. Now that we're 35 and 7 babies in, now we're talking about we're going back to school. We're going to get our GED. Where we need to go to college and all this kind of stuff. And it's it's full of zeal most of the time. It's a very zealous thing that we're adamant. Oh, I'm going back to school. Now, I must give credit to people who go back to school in their late 20s and 30s and whatnot. I mean, kudos to that. You want to go back and get your education. You got a zeal for, reigniting your educational spirit and all that. Hey, I commend you. But the question I have to ask is, where was that zeal when you were 17, when you were 18, when you were 19 or 20? Where was that zeal? There you go with, doing the reverse first. Okay? Having the kids first, living in poverty. For what? Okay? Living in disparity, maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5 different baby daddies, maybe 5 and 10 babies by different women. I mean, where was all the zeal before that? Where was it? Where was that zeal for that education? Now, you're 37 years old, okay? You got 8 babies. Now, it's going to be that much more harder for you to do it. Don't you think? Wouldn't it have been easier to do it when you were 18, 19, 20? Now you don't need a babysitter for your 8 children because you haven't had them yet. And maybe if you had gotten yourself educated at a young age, you may not have had 8 babies. You would have been a different person. You would have had a different sensibility. You would have been more educated, more worldly. You would have a different outlook on things. And I say again, I commend people who go back to school in like their 30s and stuff. But let's face it, man. If you're a person, okay, in your 30s, all right, and you got about 8, 9, 10 babies, you're pretty much in a predicament now where it's do or die. Okay, because like I said, you're probably living in the lap of poverty by now, and now you realize that you got to do this to do the come up. And see, it's good thinking, but it's reverse thinking, doing the reverse first. Now, sisters want to go back to school for nurse. For what? They want to be an RN or LPN or clinical aide or medical assistant, and they getting classes online and all this old kind of stuff. And the brothers, they going back to school for what? To get a liberal arts degree. Maybe they're working in accounting or possibly business administration. Okay, and I say again, it's all well and good, but what if you had did it when you were 20? Okay, maybe you wouldn't even have 5 and 6 and 7 baby mamas, because I say again, you would be a different person. You would have a different sensibility. You would have more responsibility. You would be more accountable. You would be more focused. So you may have not had all of those babies by all of those women. And the point I'm making is this, y'all. If we start right off, okay, at a disadvantage or making a disadvantage for ourselves, a lot of times our whole lives we lived in disadvantage. You know, I mean, most of us, we all know how it go. It's not like most of us when we drop out of a womb, we drop out into our father's hands and he grabs us and shows us to our mama. No. Usually about 3 out of 4 times when we drop out of the womb, we drop out of the womb into the hands of a doctor or nurse, and that doctor or nurse hands us to our mama. Okay, that's just most of us. All right, most of us, we fall right out of the hole. Okay, with our mama not married to nobody. All right, so we come right in at a disadvantage. We come right in disadvantage, and a lot of times the so-called father, he ain't even present. Okay, let alone being in the picture, he's not even present. So we come into the world at a disadvantage when we do the reverse first. And we got to understand that, man. You know, we come into this world, and a lot of us, we got a lot of mental problems. We have emotional issues because when we were children, a lot of us were sexually abused, physically abused. So as we grow into these people who have these abuse issues, and it's reflected on our relationship. It's reflected on how we have kids, how we rear kids, the decisions that we make as adults. And a lot of us are just flawed people because we come right into the world flawed. We get more flawed as we grow and get developed, and when we become adults, we are flawed adults. So what do we have? We have a lot of flawed interactions with other people. We have flawed relationships with other people. So what do? We give rise to more flaws. That is just a consequence, I say again, in doing the reverse first. A lot of us are just flawed, and that's just what it is. Now, I know people will say, oh man, you can't say that about everybody. I'm not saying that about everybody. Whoever I'm talking about, they know exactly who I'm talking about, because a lot of us have flaws. I mean, I have flaws too. You know, I'm not a flawless person myself. I guess that's why I'm able to speak on this stuff. All right. But see, I am a person who is willing to admit that about us. Because like I always say, when I talk about these things, I don't say those people, them people, they, this people. I say us, we, our people, because I realize that I'm part of the foolishness too. Okay? Because you have to realize that you are part of the foolishness before you can address it and ultimately fix it. Okay? You have to realize that you are part of the foolishness before you can address it and ultimately fix it. And the reality is this. I mean, not every situation is going to be fixed per se. I mean, some people, they're gonna remain with many, many flaws that they can't fix. A lot of us going to remain broke and poor. A lot of us are going to remain uneducated. A lot of us are going to remain in broke down neighborhoods, living in poverty, living in disparity. A lot of us are going to spend a lot of our lives in and out of freaking prison and in the criminal justice system. Those are just facts. I mean, you hear people talk about, we need to speak positivity. Yeah, you can speak positivity all you want, but positivity doesn't change the reality. Okay, it doesn't change the reality of doing the reverse first. Okay, we can sit around here all day and talk about what we're going to do as a people. We can sit here and talk all day about how the black world is going to rise to power and all this kind of stuff. But as long as we have more than 50%, 60%, 70% of us, long as we have those kind of numbers of people within the black world doing the reverse first, none of those things are ever going to come into a reality, man. They are never going to manifest, and we all know this. Despite anything else, okay, there's a certain amount of people within the black world who are not going to do right. Okay, there's a certain segment of the population of the black world who are going to continue to give rise to more miscreant people. Okay, we got a segment of the population who have no interest in forward movement, as long as we continue to do things like glamorize ghetto life, thug life, hood life, and the hood culture and all the nonsense that comes along with it. Because let's be clear, man, a lot of us, man, have spent the better part of about 30 years glorifying drugs and guns and being in the hood and shooting people and committing crimes. For what? Stealing and not working. And I mean, we've spent so much time glorifying that crap. I mean, we've spent so much time doing stuff like that I'm probably going to make the next video that I make is going to be talking about it. But I say that to say this: until a lot of us get serious about our lives, until a lot of us get serious about our children's lives, until a lot of us get serious about education, relationships, marriage, finances, infrastructure, growth, until we get serious about those things. And I don't mean get serious about it, after we've had 10 babies and we 45 years old. No, I mean getting serious about it right off the bat. Okay, if we got young children, okay, we need to be teaching them how to not do the reverse first. And us that are, us grown folk, the adults, we need to stop doing the reverse first as well. And we need to start that like right now, so we can start seeing the effects of it in 10 to 20 years. Because you look at what we got going on right now. I mean, this stuff here, man, it didn't happen yesterday. Okay, it didn't happen last week or last year. We are seeing the effects of reverse first thinking that happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So if we want to change anything, and I'm a big proponent of change, because I feel like change comes from within. So us in the black world, if we want real change, we have to change from within. We have to change our mind so we can change our thinking. And when we change our thinking, we will change our behavior. And when we change our behavior, guess what? The outcome will change. And that's a fact. And anyone who says different is a black-face lie. They're a black-face lie. But, like I said before, there's going to be a lot of us who are going to continue with that reverse first thinking, reverse first behavior, and have those reverse first outcomes. That's just the way it is. A lot of us are going to continue that trend. And as long as we do that, the outcomes that we have seen so far, we're going to continue to see them. We're going to continue to see them in our children. We're going to continue to see them in our neighborhoods. We're going to continue to see them as far as our education go, as far as our growth and prosperity grows, as far as the black world on a whole goes, and most importantly, we're going to see it in ourselves, man. But there is a way to stop it. There is a way to stop it. We need to stop doing the reverse first. Gotta stop doing the reverse first. Now that's facts. Profit of Thought series. Open your mind.
We have the information to survive. But because we reject the truth, any truth that will require us to personally change, that's why we can't make no progress.